Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Room presented by Mascot Media. We've got Cartoon Bobby back. Hello, Mr. Swofford.
Hello, Blair Cartwright. The traveling Bobby has commenced his 2-week journey.
Oh, yeah, Bobby's doing the tour of Arkansas. So, where are you headed today, sir?
So I'm headed to Mansfield, America today. A little
All
2A state
right.
basketball tournaments. I was in North Little Rock yesterday. I'll be making the trip to Searcy tomorrow, and then in your neck of the woods on the weekend for Friday and Saturday. So,
Sweet.
all everything this state has to offer, I'm going to see most of it in the next 5 or 6 days.
Awesome. And I trust you will be uh, checking out all hospitality rooms.
Indeed, yes. I have a rating from yesterday's in
Okay.
North Little Rock, and
Do
I'm hoping
share.
that today in Mansfield is better. Uh, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it was about a 4, to be honest.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
they had wings catered, chicken wings, but they were a little
Mm-hmm.
overdone. Not a lot of meat on that bone. The fries were stale.
Oh.
They weren't fresh.
Yeah.
And they did not have Coca-Cola products in the hospitality room. So
Ooh.
I was zero crock pots were found, and it was just
Oh.
not. It, you get a 4 minimum because it's free, but
Yeah.
you got to work your way up above that, and so a little disappointed on day one.
Yeah. I was gonna ask. No crock pots. That's not a hospitality room if there's not a crock pot.
No, yeah,
It's
I mean catering's good. It's fine if you cater things, but you got to make sure it's done right, and it just it wasn't for me yesterday.
man. Well, I would imagine Mansfield. I will take the over. I will say there will be more than 4 crock pots there. It's
Yeah,
just a
usually
hunch.
the smaller the school, as you're well aware, smaller the school, the better
Yes.
the hospitality room.
Oh yeah. And the more crock pots you see.
Yes,
I mean
indeed.
that's the way you do it. All right. Let's get to our headlines and our topics. Obviously, the first one we want to talk state tournament is going on. Hoops at AAAscoreboard.com. Phenomenal numbers yesterday, and it's only going to get better. And it's so cool to be able to watch the state
Yeah,
tournament either on your phone or on your computer.
yeah. Technology is a heck of a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's I was sitting in said hospitality room updating the brackets. I was updating the brackets after the first game yesterday in North Little Rock, and somebody walked by and noticed I had like 4 things up on my screen. Like, how are you watching all those games at the same time? And I was like,
Yeah.
well, funny you should ask. AAAscoreboard.com. Watch them all.
There you
But
go.
they had it going in their hospitality room. They had the game up on their big screen. It was
Well, they get
it's
a
really nice
point
to
for
be able to
that.
sit there and watch, and especially yes, absolutely. But you're looking at in my role, um, so I've got to be able to punch those in the brackets as soon as they're done. And what better way to do so than by watching all.
Speaking of technology, as the cell signal goes goes in and out. But hey, AAAscoreboard.com. That's definitely where you want to watch the games through the state championship. Then, of course, Arkansas PBS takes over. But got a lot of basketball going down this week. And if you can't make it out, obviously you can watch it online. All right, next topic is Razorback Basketball. What do you do to me? 85-82 last night,
Woof,
losing at
woof.
home to Vanderbilt. I turned it on and I swear they were up like 17-2, and I thought, okay, they're going to be okay. They're going to win 3 in a row. And
Yeah.
then Vanderbilt had the lead, and as we have seen, this team, even my dogs are upset. This team cannot get behind in the second half. They don't have the ability to come back.
So, yes, that you are correct there. But how in the world does a team like Arkansas fall behind by 1.5 points to Vanderbilt, but 16 points in the
Yeah.
second half to a team that had won 8 games all season? February is like tomorrow, and this team's still not in double-digit victories. There's no chance that someone like that comes into Bud Walton Arena and just punks you on your home floor. I mean, Arkansas is so Charmin soft, Blair. Any bit of adversity, they fold to 10. They can't stop anybody in the lane. And the fact that Vanderbilt shoots 50% from the field for the entire game kind of tells you that defensively they were non-existent yesterday. I mean, you can talk about the 30-point losses all you want that they had this year. That's the worst loss of the season. Losing to that team on your home floor in that fashion is the worst loss of the year.
By far. I mean, that is the same court and team where you beat Duke. How? How does that happen?
And Purdue.
Yeah, but that didn't count. But still.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not that long ago, but it was. Actually, that was Vanderbilt's 8th win last night. 3-12 in the conference. 3-12.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
So, it would appear, and the women got beat the other night at A&M, so it appears they're not going to the postseason. So there could be no postseason basketball at all involving a Razorback team. Mind-boggling. Do you even need to go to the NIT? And I think we've lost Bobby momentarily. And that will be one thing to ask, in that with the NIT, normally you used to play a game. Well, I'll save it for when he comes back on. We'll get him momentarily, but technology drops down a little bit. So while we're waiting on Mr. Swofford, we'll remind you that AAAscoreboard.com is where you can see the Arkansas State tournaments, which of course started yesterday, continue through Saturday, as they'll set the field for the championship next week in Hot Springs. And Arkansas PBS, of course, will be covering that, and Bobby will be part of the broadcast for that as well. As we kind of kill time here, we'll let you know you can email the podcast at hpmmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on the X, HPMM Podcast, as well. We'd appreciate hearing from you. We always enjoy hearing from everybody, and we do get some nice tweets and emails every now and then. We'll share some of those with you as well. So we're just kind of waiting for Mr. Swofford to pop back in. There he is again. Hello again, Mr. Swofford.
I don't know if it was coincidence or what, but a state trooper flies by me and all of a sudden I have zero phone service.
It's all a part of the conspiracy. It's all part of the conspiracy.
The man does not enjoy the hospitality room, apparently.
No. He was trying to get the website address for AAAscoreboard.com.
Apologies.
So
I've returned.
Oh, that's cool. So back to Razorback basketball. So obviously, it doesn't look like they're not going to the NCAA tournament. We know that much.
No.
Do you even allow them to go to the NIT, the men or the women? Because in this day of the portal, your team's going to change radically. It used to be you would go to those tournaments if you had a young team. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. So why is the NIT even still a thing? And two, do you allow either one of those teams to go?
Yeah. So first with the men, you turn the NIT down for the exact reason that you mentioned. You don't want to host the NIT anyway, so you don't want to mess with the headache of being at home and having to get workers and all that. So you turn it down for the men. You're obviously going to have a lot of roster turnover. Not worth it. The women turn it down because they're likely going to have a coaching change. Just like the men, the loss to Vanderbilt can't happen. Honestly, the last two games for the Arkansas women are games that they had to win, and they didn't get the job done. So you're looking at probably an Arkansas team that I think you and I talked about it before the season started, needed to win a game in the NCAA tournament to save Neighbors' job, and now they look like they're not even going to qualify for it.
Yeah, it's sad. It is, but that's
it is.
Unfortunately, that's the way it happens. All right.
No doubt.
Our next topic, court storming. Oh, everybody's weighed in. Everybody's gone nuts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it has gotten out of control as far as the number of times a court is stormed. The value of storming the court has certainly diminished throughout the years, and so we're starting to see it more often. I still think it has a place. It is very unfortunate, obviously, what happened to the Duke player. I believe it was Filipowski, I
Yeah,
believe.
Filipowski.
Um, yeah, I mean, so things like that are unfortunate. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know how you eliminate it, to be quite honest. When you've got an 85-year-old trying to keep off the stack, it's never going to work. Uh, I don't know. I think there's a place for it still in college basketball, but there's certainly got to be some more regulations and more security there to at least allow the teams time to get off the floor.
Yeah, obviously my dogs are not happy with the current situation and they want to keep court storming. But my thought, I remember Calipari in the past, and he's been criticized for this, and people wonder why he did it. But he would get his starters out of there and send them to the locker room before the game even ended to keep something like that from happening, which in hindsight, he was ahead of the game. It was brilliant. Um, you can't tell me these schools can't have real security set up to prevent somebody from getting hurt, or if nothing else, to surround the visiting team to allow them to get off the court. I mean, these are the same schools paying coaches $6 to $7 million. You can't tell me they can't afford $50,000 to get some security because you know which games are potential
Right.
court storm games. So,
Yeah.
and like you said, yeah, go ahead.
That's the biggest part. That's the biggest part that you mentioned is a game that's worthy of a court storming. Like so, if
Yes.
Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, Kansas, if those teams show up on your schedule at your place, like okay, let's go ahead and get 20 extra officers for this game.
Yes.
It's not like you've got to do it for all 20 home games. You just do it for a handful of games, and some years you may not have any. And so, yeah, I think that's probably the most logical way and the easiest way to do it. It's just getting colleges to spend money on things that are important, or it's a little easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Now I will admit I was on the floor after the Duke game. I went on the court. I was looking for my son. Thought it would be kind of cool for both of us to be down there. But, there's a way to do it. You don't have to. I don't get trying to interact with the opposing players or the taunting.
Yeah.
There's no place for that. But like you said,
Well, yeah,
you can't have these retirees who work as ushers and honestly expect them to stop anybody. I mean, you're going to get them hurt as well.
Right. Yeah. But they're holding a little on the road. It's not going to stop. Right. I mean, so they've just got to do more, and and you keep that security team around the opposing team. And all they jump in front, and they can kind of the old flying feet.
I want to say at the Duke game they brought out a bunch of officers and got them in front of the student section. Now that's more of a deterrent than a bunch of retirees in caddy vests. So
yeah,
I mean that's part of the unique thing of college basketball. You're not going to see it in the NBA because they play so many games, and it's part of the college tradition. I don't think you can get rid of it, but you can modify it. And social media is part of the problem because everybody wants to take the picture, and ESPN is hypocritical because they've come out and said, "Oh, this is horrible," but then they show you the video 900 times.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it's a great visual. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And if that's the player number 11 on the bench that gets hurt, nobody's saying a word.
Exactly.
Because it was Filipowski, because Caitlin Clark gave us the flop of all time with contact with the fan. That's why these things are now becoming headlines and the conversation's crept back up again.
Yeah. And how much, I didn't go back and look, but what was the point spread at that point of the Wake Forest Duke game? I don't think it was a 1 or 2 possession game, so really there was no need to have your starters on the floor. There was probably no need to have Caitlin
Yeah.
Clark on the floor at that point. I mean, pull your starters. It's one game. Yeah, like you said, put the walk-ins in because, in all honesty, nobody's really worried if they get run over and plowed.
Yeah.
As long as live to play another game.
Yep, I'm with you.
So, oh well. Enough of that. All right, let's talk to something more uplifting. Razorback baseball team goes 2-1 in Arlington. The pitching, unbelievable. Hagen Smith, a gazillion strikeouts against Oregon State. Oregon State struck out 25 times in that game. And
Yeah.
granted, Arkansas wins, but I mean, honestly, if you're Oregon State, are you not embarrassed? 25 of your 27 outs were strikeouts. What on earth?
Yeah. And 17 of 18 outs that Hagen Smith recorded were strikeouts.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's, this time of the year, pitching usually is ahead of hitting a little bit, but that takes it a little too far, right?
Yeah.
Arkansas has got 3, maybe 4 legit starters, and not many teams in college baseball are going to be able to say that. The Misses and I went to the game on Saturday against Oklahoma State and sat through that marathon, in which they struck out 24 or so against Oklahoma State. Granted, that one game went to 14 innings. Really, really well played game. Arkansas just couldn't get a timely hit, and then that was the difference in that one. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas's pitching's phenomenal, and then you say as soon as Arkansas can't get any runs, yesterday happened, and then they took one out on Grambling.
Yeah. Well, but you kind of expected. So tell us, as you cut out real quick, how was Global Life Park? How was the college baseball experience in a major league stadium?
It was really cool. I mean, so it's a night game. Weather was perfect in Dallas this weekend, and even though it was indoor and inside, I would say there's probably 10,000 people there, maybe a little more, and 90% Razorback fans, which is a little surprising. Oklahoma State didn't represent a little bit better, but it's a reason that game was the Saturday night game. The park is awesome. That's the first time I've been there. I know it opened 3 or 4 years ago. It's really, really clean, really nice, really well done. And unlike Tropicana in Tampa Bay, the roof is not white, so you can actually see a fly ball. So I thought it was a really nice ballpark. It's not massive. I don't know what the official seating capacity is. It's not just daunting how big it is, but it's a really cool spot. And actually, I was thinking to myself, you know what? This would be a great place for the College World Series. I really thought that to myself.
That's almost sacrilegious, though, to think that Omaha could not host it. But do you think?
Just think about not sweating your ass off and watching a game in comfortable weather, and all the elements don't have anything to do with it. Just think about that opposite.
Yeah. But then you'd have to get the Rangers to give up the park for 2 weeks.
Right. The turf is the only downside. Obviously baseball should be played on grass.
Yes, I would agree. Yes. So concession stand food, fare, how was that?
Nachos were fantastic. Apparently the missus thinks I like ketchup and onions on a hot dog, which is a major fail.
Yes.
So she got docked a couple points on that, but in her defense, I don't generally like mustard and I don't like pickles, but the only thing I put on a hot dog is mustard and relish. So it's just, it's a little haywire there. Beers, which is a crazy town.
Yeah.
But
I heard it was like $11 for a brew.
Yeah, $11.49.
Woo.
Yeah, so needless to say, I didn't have many of those.
Yeah. How much did a soda go for? A Coke Zero, for instance.
I don't know. I didn't look at the prices actually because I didn't order one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your overall impression of having seen the Razorbacks in person, what defensive? We know the pitching's good, but hitting and defense.
Yeah. I mean, the pitching is outstanding. Yeah. I mean, it's everything I thought it was going to be and more. The hitting still has some work to do. And you can't say, they scored 21 runs yesterday and say say that, but that's against Grambling. So
Yeah.
like they've certainly got some things to figure out with the lineup, but here they are. They're only 8 games deep now into the season. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I forgot to look who's coming up this weekend, but we'll talk about that next week. All right. Next topic. Eli Gold, the longtime voice of the Crimson Tide since 1988, 35 years. He also used to do NASCAR. He's out. He said he did not want to retire. Bama boots him. Your thoughts on hearing, what did you think of when you heard Eli Gold is out as the voice of the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I realized that he wasn't retiring, I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think of that voice when you think of Alabama football. Just like many people think of Chuck Barrett when they think Arkansas football. Obviously, of my generation, older generations will think of Paul Eels. But
Yep.
it was, I mean, to me, it's Alabama hitting the complete reset button. It's kind of like what the Patriots have done post Bill Belichick. Alabama is just going completely like, let's scrub everything. Now that Nick Saban's gone, we got to build our own legacy. And so obviously you have a new coaching staff, probably a new style of play, and they're thinking, okay, we've got to do a new radio broadcast as well, which is a little surprising, but I kind of understand the rationale.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. The Nashville Cats arena team has named Eli their voice, and that's the graphic you see there. Chris Stewart's going to fill in for Eli. He had been on the broadcast with them. Now, Eli had some health issues recently, and he only did home games and the game at Auburn. So it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It brings up one of those interesting things in sports, and we saw that with Coach Broyles when he was AD at Arkansas. Someone who's been there a long time and becomes kind of an institution. At what point and who can make the decision on whether it's time for that person to go? We've seen it a lot in broadcasters. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, who makes the decision? I mean, that's a tough call, isn't it? Like Al Michaels. I mean, who's going to tell Uncle Al, "Hey, it's time to
Yeah.
go. It's not working on Amazon."
It's very rarely anymore do you get to set your timeline. Any profession.
Hmm.
And more so in television. Used to just kind of Vince Lilly. He was going to be able to say when he was going to retire. Very few people are getting luxury anymore because you can't long. Like you can't let Chris Berman and Peter Gammons and other people, Chris, let them go too long where people have a bad taste in their mouth about how they came across in a broadcast.
Hmm.
I will claim to the day I die, because it's when it happened when I was really watching a lot of baseball tonight and all that Peter Gammons was the worst broadcaster on television. It's just because they let him stay on too long, and so my
Hmm.
opinion of him was skewed because of that. Chris Berman, there's a fatigue there. Obviously, everything that Mortensen went through. I mean, they let him stay on too long, and honestly, I think they're protecting their legacy and their reputation by kind of pushing them out a little bit earlier in their career, maybe when they would make the decision themselves.
Well, it's kind of like the Lee Corso situation with Game Day.
Yeah,
It's
like
almost
he's
to the
probably
point where
gone
it's
on a couple years too
uncomfortable.
long.
Yeah, it's to the point it's almost
Yeah,
uncomfortable to watch it. But then again, in broadcasting, familiarity is such a important component to it because people almost are as connected to the announcer for like Eli Gold in this situation with Alabama as they are to the team because it's like you mentioned Paul Eels, Chuck Barrett, various voices of the team, Larry Munson at Georgia. I mean, that was as much a part of the game as the actual game itself. So it's tough to make the call on that, and there's no easy way to do it either, unless you give them one more year and it's kind of a farewell tour, which is supposedly what Eli wanted.
yeah. And you kind of put yourself in a bad situation when you're only doing half the game. And I understand the health issues. Everyone wants that farewell. It's just not many people.
Yeah. All right, we go from one person moving on to another. Peter King, longtime NFL writer, 44 years, 27 years ago, started Monday Morning Quarterback in Sports Illustrated, and that became the go-to read for the NFL. Went to NBC, started Football Morning in America. Announced this week that he's going to step down. Man, he leaves some massive shoes, and I know a lot of people don't even remember Sports Illustrated for what it once was, but when it came to the NFL, few knew more than Peter King.
Yeah, I agree. And he was an institution. I know
Yes.
that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but he was. But I'm going to have an unpopular opinion about Peter King,
Okay.
and this is going to be our generational gap here, Blair. Even though you're not that much older than I am,
Yeah.
Peter King is a lot like some other broadcasters, including one in Northwest Arkansas, that constantly references the past. And I'm not
Uh-huh.
talking about recent past, 20, 30 years ago, that are completely irrelevant to the moment or to the current topic at hand, that it makes you feel like that you're stuck in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that way too often. Even when he was on Florio show on PFT Talk, Pro Football Talk, now on NBC Sports, he
Mm-hmm.
always brings up stuff that happens in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s. I mean, these players weren't even alive at that
Yeah.
point, let alone be compared to them. So I kind of thought that he never progressed with the sport when it came to making some comparisons. Uh, Berman was the same way. And so my opinion of Peter King, not nearly as high as probably as it should be, to be quite honest.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. 2 minutes and 20 seconds, by the way, left. But yeah, I don't know who becomes kind of the must read for the NFL. But then again, like anything else, things change, things evolve. We're seeing
Yeah.
media evolve now. Um, I guess does Schefter now become the preeminent voice of the NFL? And he's kind of a social media sensation, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I think long form is a niche thing anyway. That I
Mm-hmm.
think there are less and less people reading long form articles anyway. People want their news in 280 characters or less, and that's what Schefter is an expert at.
Yeah.
Uh, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the physicist and
Mm-hmm.
astrophysicist and all that. I was listening to a podcast with him on it, and I know I'm running out of time, but he said that he
Yeah.
had to reteach how he spoke
Hmm.
because today's society can no longer take a lecture. So he said he trained himself to speak in sound bites, 15, 20, 30 seconds. That they're going to easily, and that's why. So Pod's talking about because he always says something that's direct to the point and sticks in your brain.
That makes sense. That's why the children's sermon's so popular on Sunday mornings. 1 minute
That's
left.
right.
Is there a place for long form reporting in sports?
Yeah, yeah, there is. There's still enough people that want to read that. Just don't think it's the masses anymore. I would say it's maybe 25% who want to sit there and read a 3 or 4 thousand word article compared to maybe one that can knock out in 2 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Shoe technology. I got a pair of Skechers slip-ons. They're actually very cool, very comfortable. Now, am I to the point now where I'm going to start wearing suspenders? Am I getting too old? Or am I being modern and embracing technology?
Well, as long as you're not wearing the Nike Air Monarchs and calf high white socks, you're fine.
Woo. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. All right. Final 10 seconds. Hit us up on the X. Send us an email. Final word, Mr. Swofford, quickly.
AAAscoreboard.com. Watch it.